Sitting up suddenly, breathing heavily and doused in an odd sweat, I gasped for air. It took several panic-inducing moments to recognize my surroundings. Still dressed in the robe, I was laying lightly upon my soft bed, back home. The house was left all the same as it had been the night before, not a single change. I reached up and dragged a sleeve across my forehead, dampening the cloth of it heavily with moisture. My breathing was erratic, like I'd been running for hours straight without taking a single moment to rest. The dream was so vivid that it was clear in my mind, all the way up until the last moment. When trying to imagine it again, I could remember the mirror and the candles clearly, but looking into the mirror produced only a smudged and unrecognizable image. At least now it did in my memory. I knew I'd seen it clearly inside the dream. Feeling against my chest with my hand, my heart beat rapidly deep inside as I tried to calm myself. I leaned back down onto the pillow and shut my eyes, only finding myself forcing them back open immediately. It was almost like my body wouldn't let me go back. I sat up again with a light groan and swung my feet to the side of the bed. The dizzy feeling was quickly wearing off, and my breath slowed to a normal rate in a matter of moments. I was thankful to see things were returning to regular, at least. These weren't permanent side effects to the potion. At that thought, I began to wonder what effects there actually were, aside from a rather strange and unusual dream. There wasn't much evidence to point out anything to me. My being looked normal from my point of view. I hadn't gained any special magical powers. My body hadn't become imbued with earthen elements. It was disappointing. Of course, it was pleasant to see nothing ultimately negative occurring. All the same, this was my life's work. All my time and effort for nothing? Perhaps I'd done something wrong with the ingredients. I'd have to check the book. It was the only option. Upon that decision, I stood up next to the bed with ease to activate the hidden door. While awaiting the passage to open, I stretched lightly. One noticeable thing came to mind during that short moment. My joints had never been so limber. At my age, stiffness was so common, yet I could fluidly bend and twist without a single pop or pain. It was easy to write off that little fact, merely a residual effect of a very, very powerful and deep sleep. It was hard not to try and attribute it to the potion. I just didn't want to be discouraged. To admit my potion really did nothing to me. I dismissed my unhappy thoughts and made my way down the passage. There was no telling if even my book would hold an answer. It was likely that there'd just have to be another potion created as a test. A second version with slight changes. After all, that was the normal life of an alchemist. Something didn't work, do it again and again. A constant state of failure on the road to one success. The bottom of the steps came into view. I was quickly on the dirt floor, looking up to the middle of the room. A flash appeared before me, not of blinding light, but an image. The mirror. There, in the midst of the room, beside the cold and damp fire pit. Within moments, the apparition of the reflective object was gone, disappeared into the darkness along with the two blue flames next to it. I ran over to the area with my arms outstretched, searching to find if it was real or not. A simple hallucination. That's all it was. A heaving breath left my lips. What was this happening to me? What strange oddities were invading my mind to produce such visuals? I scratched at my smooth hair thoughtfully and dismissed it again. There was more of importance to focus on now. My book lay on the table to the side, ready for reviewing. The pages still retained dust, despite their recent opening. Small puffs and clouds bellowed forth from page upon page being turned. Somewhere in my scribblings, there must have been a mistake. Before I knew it, hours had passed. In the same spot next to the table, I stood, livid, stressed, concerned. None of it added up. It was impossible. My research was flawless. Even the potion itself was without mistake. Frustration. Hardly a fitting word to describe the feeling at that moment. There was no word or combination thereof for it. The table groaned as I slammed my fist down upon it. Nonsensical issues, always arising in my path, it seemed. It took a short while longer, but I eventually realized a break from these studies was in order. A cold drink of water or a fresh apple could cool my mind, hopefully. With an exasperated sigh, I shut the book with a final wisp of dust, ready to head back upstairs. It was no use to obsess at the moment. No good would come of it, and I knew that well, having done that far too many times before, as it was. Luckily, my store of food was well maintained, a rather large supply of goods ready for me at any moment. It was all locked behind a small doorway up above in the main part of the house. Water sounded best at the moment, with my throat being parched from all the dust and stress. The small stream behind my cabin would provide me with the freshest supply, without a doubt. In mere moments, and a simple enchanted sentence, the outside was revealed. Hidden behind large dark gray clouds, the sun was barely rising through the peaks. Snow lightly continued to fall through the canopy of the trees. It occurred to me that snow could also work as a soothing remedy for my throat. But alas, it would be riddled with muck and grime from the ground below. It was worth the short journey to the creek. I stepped through the iced landscape, crunching twigs with almost a merry sort of feeling. Odd considering that the current situation hadn't changed. Maybe it was just pleasant to be outside again. The stream came into view quickly, the sounds of trickling waters gently stroking at the dull stones embedded within it, echoing. Such a relaxing ambience. I knelt at the creek side, holding out my water skin for collection. It filled to the brim in a short few seconds. I pulled the neck of the canteen up to my lips, savoring the icy cold gift from the spring well further up the bank. All was well and good now, my mood quickly beginning to improve. I capped the edge of the bottle and let it dangle to my side once more. Food and drink wasn't the only thing I needed, it seemed. Staring into the stream water drew another thought out. Days of travel had built up grime and dirt all around me. Perhaps it would feel good to do a cleansing. Despite my strong resistance to the cold, not even I would bathe in the water of a snowy mountain stream. It would be much wiser to gather a decent amount and heat it properly. With that, I quickly rushed back to the cabin, grabbing a slightly larger vessel to return with. It wouldn't hold very much water, but enough for me to fill my wash basin with. I raced through the forest both ways and back, so spry with energy still. Nearly tripping over a root on the way back didn't even stop me. I was able to maintain my balance unlike ever before, avoiding the loss of any fluid from the bucket. Once back inside, I set the urn of water upon the tabletop next to a large metallic bowl. The bowl was seated neatly upon a small rack, a thick candle below it. Just as the torch had been lit before on the journey back, the candle was now too. It burned brightly, the flame gliding back and forth across the smooth metal surface. I hoisted the bucket up and gently let the stream of water flow into the bowl. It settled quickly among the bottom, coming to a motionless rest. It would take a short moment for it to heat. In the meantime, I leaned over the container to stare deeply into the crisp reflection. My jaw fell agape. Eyes widened as far as possible. My wrinkles, they were gone. My white hair, the deepest brown it had ever been. My eyes, sparkling with youth and determination.